So as we were kind of preparing for our talk on Our Neighbor Totoro, this is the first time I've seen it, but we'll get into that. But I want you to go ahead and do a YouTube search for The Doors Alabama song, and in parentheses, it's called Whiskey Bar. Have you found that yet?
I found one. It's a 2006 remaster. Is that fine?
That's perfectly fine. So all I want you to do,
okay,
I want you to start thinking of the scene while the kids are waiting for Dad to get off the bus in the rain, and just hit that music and just think about that scene real quick.
Okay. I might also try and find it and just mute that. I'll just mute that.
It won't show up in the channel, I don't think. Alex didn't record local.
No, I meant like just mute. I'm gonna get that scene of My Neighbor Totoro and just mute it.
Oh, okay. This is gonna be great.
God.
Like, I used to do stuff like this when I taught film.
See if I can get it. Oh, okay. Found the best scene. Sorry, My Neighbor Totoro, best scene. Apparently, according to somebody. All right, so I'm gonna listen to. Got this playing.
If you can time it around Cat Bus, it's even better.
I'm kind of getting a comedic sound to this, or like mood to this.
Oh yeah, it's not horror. It's more like drug trip.
Yeah. All right, kids reacting to the Cat Bus.
Do. He got that creepy organ music. Oh, show me.
Yeah, the almost Calliope music.
I used to do that with. I would show Nosferatu to the kids when I taught film, and then like when it got to that end scene where the vampire is going after the lady love and all that, I would play that Total Eclipse of the Heart, and it would like turn around, and then you see that little Nosferatu like slouching around. But anyway, I appreciate you checking that out. That's just
I'm about halfway through the song, so I'm gonna just But yeah, I'm getting it. Yeah, it's like kind of yeah, and it does really work. Like it worked really well because like I just like the kids' reaction, like the Satsume's reaction to everything is like working really. It works really well for that scene because I think as the cat bus is running by and her reaction like, huh? Nani?
If only we had the rights to the Doors music.
If only. Why can't more things be copyright law or copyright free?
Fucking Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Same reason why I have. Same reason why my copy of My Neighbor Totoro is a Disney distribution. Oh no, mine's actually a shout. Mine's a shout distribution. They must have lost the rights to it at some point, or.
I pretty much watch mine on HBO Go. Like HBO has distribution. So anyway, I appreciate you hearing me out on that. That was just kind of my little observation of.
No, I appreciate that. That was funny. It's like I kind of think of the same. I can't remember the song, but like I had like there's a similar moment where like it's a like kind of a fun like kind of trumpety song, and I always like think of scenes from Batman and Robin where Two-Face is running down hallways. It's like like I can't remember what the song is, but it's like this like kind of jaunty tune. But it always like I always think back for some reason of like scenes of like Two-Face from Batman and Robin running away from Batman. All right. Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis presents Anime Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist, and with me tonight...
Hey, long-time contributor. This is Adam from Roleplaying Exchange, and we're here talking about anime, and I watched an anime, so now we're going to talk about it. Is that pretty much how this works?
Yep.
Okay.
You watched this one for the first time, which I was kind of shocked because it's a pretty popular one. But yeah, we're going to be covering My Neighbor Totoro for this anime episode.
I see what you're doing now.
Yeah, no, I've got all the gimmicks today, like anime Rigamortis. It's anime. I hope listeners have got that point that we're like, because like the last episode was an anime episode. Next week's is gonna be an anime episode. So it's anime all the way down in May. But yeah, so My Neighbor Totoro, what a film.
It was enjoyable. I had always heard of My Neighbor Totoro. I've been a huge fan of anime, but I mean, that's kind of one of the givens right there. So I never did go for that one. It looked good. It looked kiddie and all that. But I think maybe when I was getting into anime anyway, I was kind of in my edgelord, like, ooh, there's Wicked City. There's, which we'll get to that later on.
Yeah, we'll get, yeah.
after I had to rethink some life decisions I made back in the 90s.
I just realized it's like, so like I've introduced you to I told you about I got you to watch My Neighbor Totoro for the first time, and now you're going to get me to watch Wicked City for the next time. Spoilers for what we're doing next week, by the way.
So which at the end of listening to these two episodes, I want you to think, who's really the good friend here? Well, please comment in whatever area
comment,
below.
Subscribe,
yeah,
wherever this gets posted.
No, it was really great. I appreciate you asking me to do this. I sat down and watched it with my child and then my children, both of them at the same time. So I've seen it twice. And like one little quick aside before we jump into this film came out in 1988. Now I'm 41. I was born in 1980. So I was 8 years old when this came out. I got to sit down Wednesday night with my daughter, who is 8 years old, and watch it. And while it's not an amazing parallel and stuff like that, it was kind of nice to be able to watch this for the first time with a child. And I mean, I think it's kind of, you pick up on some of the things you wouldn't allow yourself to otherwise if you weren't just watching it like with a kid or something like that. It's like I got to be a kid myself at that point in time. And it was great. We couldn't finish it in one night because it got to bedtime, but I was given strict orders in the morning that we were going to finish it. And by God, does she remember? So Aura would probably give it 5 out of 5 stars, I think.
Yeah. I did. I had a similar situation with my niece, the Niece Cultist, watching the movie last summer. Because like I'd seen it, I think probably about about 5 years ago or so. And then I was like, oh, like we were kind of getting the Niece Cultist introduced to like a couple of Ghibli films, like Spirited Away. I think I don't think any of like the like none of the like the other ones like Princess Mononoke or Nausicaa, but like more of the kid friendly ones, like the family ones. That because
no Grave of the Fireflies.
We'll get to that. She has not seen. She's a 6-year-old child. She has not seen Grave of the Fireflies. I would not subject her to that childhood trauma, which apparently happened though to children back in like the 90s.
My parents let me watch The Exorcist when I was like 8, so
I mean, I watched Poltergeist when I was 6, so
all right, so you should be better parents than our parents, guys. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah. So yeah, like I kind of got into Ghibli films through like Princess Mononoke. Like that was kind of my foyer into like Hayao Miyazaki and his animation style and like his animated films. And then oddly enough, Ghibli films are like, so like the rest of my family aren't really anime fans at all, but we all will sit down and watch like Spirited Away. So like we've had a couple of car rides where like we've gotten like a portable DVD player, and like I have memories of us like going on road trips and watching Spirited Away, and my sisters getting into the movie. Like Ghibli films just like are a step up when it comes to like a gateway drug to anime or to like Japanese animation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to kind of preface this before we kind of dive into this. My Neighbor Totoro is a wholesome, fun family feature. If you have not seen it and you have children of like about 6 to 8 or even like children of any age, really, watch it with them. It's a fun, whimsical adventure. And I do kind of think it's funny that both of us watched it with our younger with the younger generation, because it was like it's kind of like the scenario in the movie, which has like the father figure with his 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And like they're like kind of like their adventure in itself, like kind of the mundane adventure of that. But yeah, so if you haven't tuned out yet and gone and see My Neighbor Totoro, I'll just kind of do a quick recap of it. So My Neighbor Totoro is about this family, the Kusakabe family. Tatsuo, the father, and two daughters, Satsuke and Mai. They move out to an old house out in the sticks, basically out into the country of Japan, and because their mother, or Satsuke and Mai's mother, is in a hospital in like the nearby town, recovering from a long-term illness, and effectively it really kind of starts off like after they like get into their house, they get like accustomed to it, and then Mai meets these like little woodland spirits next door, basically in the woods nearby, and discovers Totoro, this giant like woodland spirit, like this like troll creature. It's kind of like a cross between a troll and a like a giant like raccoon dog,
yeah,
sort of creature. And eventually Satsuke meets Totoro. Like usually the adventures happen either like while dad's working and like not paying attention to Mai. Simpler times when you can just let your children run around outside. And at night, when they're woken up by like the machinations of these Totoro spirits. And yeah, like they live in the Totoro spirits live in this giant camphor tree next door, like again in the woods next door. And yeah, over the course of the movie, there's like little adventure scenes that kind of happen with Totoro and the kids, that also kind of intertwine with their like mundane lives. Like, so it's almost like a little bit of like the supernatural kind of like mingling with mundanity. And unfortunately, like at some point in the movie, the daughters, their mother, they get a letter saying that their mother has gotten ill again, and so she's not going to be able to come home like as expected. And this kind of throws some tension and some drama between the two children because like it's really affecting them. And one of the kids runs away, like trying to like get to her mother's at the hospital. So she just like, and so there's like a large search. The older sister Satsuke calls on Totoro to help her find Mai, and they do. And then they also go to the hospital and see that their mother is fine. It was some kind of a weird fluke letter that they got. Or it was a small cold that she had gotten. It wasn't anything major, but because of like the emotions that are kind of broiling around that situation, things got pulled out of proportion. But everything's all right, and the movie kind of eventually settles down to like concluding like the family is all reunited back at their house, and Totoro and them are also just there, like off in the woods doing their whimsical little stuff. So. I'm probably butchering the plot, but just doing that. But honestly, like again, if you haven't sat down and watched this movie, I encourage you to watch this movie. It's a fantastic adventure. Now let's make it horror.
Okay.
Unless you have something to say there, Adam.
No, I was just gonna. The things that I kind of picked up on watching it beforehand, like definitely told through a child's gaze, which is what you want in a kid's film. And there was this whole issue. I like the dynamic of the sisters. Now I'm a father of two. I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. So like that really, I could even see parts of my own children in them, like the older sister telling the other one what to do, the younger one that is just, to use an expression that I doubt you've heard before, I mean, which would basically mean she'd do anything, would be she'd fight a running sawmill. If you've ever heard that.
I have not, but that sounds very Appalachian.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That means they don't give a fuck. But like, yeah. So you had this really strong personalities there. The parenting was actually my heavy rain. Jason.
Jason. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's that the horror aspect kind of jumped into me with the parenting. The illness that they kind of discussed, the reason that they wrote the mother out, that she had some unknown illness that's never known. But I'd never have understood from anime Japanese culture's issues with illness and sickness. I've like, if you walk outside without a coat, you're going to catch your death kind of thing. It seemed like a common trope. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, like there's definitely a she's caught plotitis.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Like, yeah, it's a very common trope. Like there has to be a family member who is ill that will will wane and get better depending on the plot.
I didn't know she was going to get better because when I was talking to you, I got the impression that it got sad at the end, and I'm like, well, Totoro's going away or Mom's going away.
No.
So I'm watching for this woman to die the whole time. And
I mean, there is a part where it's like it gets kind of like really like sad and like because it's real. Like, it cuts a little close to home, especially now that we are currently living in a pandemic.
Yeah, very much so. But yeah, that was. I mean, once you get past all that, there was Chekhov's gun was very obvious, like elements of that, like or as I'd like to call it, Chekhov's ear of corn. Everything's like really easily telegraphed to the point that I can sit there and explain to my daughters why May's running around with a little piece of corn or ear of corn and stuff. So I mean, not really wanting to go into too much further detail, but for all, I liked it, even despite the fact it was Kitty, and I started with much like you, Princess Mononoke, but
I mean, I think there's a certain. I mean, for me, it was because like Princess Mononoke came out or was like being broadcast almost on a weekly basis, like on a weekend basis, on like certain channels, like certain like edgy channels, like Spike or at least up here it was Spike or I think even Teletoon, which is our Cartoon Network up here.
Okay.
Would have anime marathons on New Year's and Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a lot of like anime movies. Like I think I watched Macross on a Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
With a bunch of my relatives. But yeah, like I imagine down there, it's the same thing with like Cartoon Network because you guys had Toonami and stuff too.
Yeah.
So like they were probably broadcasting a lot of that stuff.
I think when
I know we have a bit of an age gap. Sorry.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, we have a little bit of an age gap, but I mean, I think around the same time, like we were like seeing the same kind of like movies or same kind of like anime shows.
Yeah, it would have been. I think I saw this like back in 2000 or 99 or something like that. So it's now to kind of help you after I derailed you, I'm going to grab the wheel of the car, pull it back on the road here. All right, horror.
Yeah,
let's just go ahead and start out with the introduction. Could totally be horror. You've got kids riding around in a combination of a 3-wheeler motorcycle, 2-cycle engine. It sounds like
yeah, that tradition, like you see it a lot in Japanese and Eastern culture, like movies and shows and stuff like those. Like I think it's just like a converted motorcycle that they've made into a 3-wheeler, into a 3-wheel truck. Especially also in like the older, in like a few decades back, there's like they pop around. Like I remember also like one of my trips down to out to Thailand, like most of the traffic was from like these cabs that were like that.
Yeah.
So there's that. Sorry, I did actually want before we even get to that part, I do want to touch on the intro song and animation, which I sat down and watched like earlier this week, and I was like, oh God, like this, like the way, like especially with the lyrics, it's just like, come into the forest, children, play with Totoro, and just like, it's got like a bit of a trance-like tone and just like a lost episode sort of like creepy thing going to me.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. Fuck that song.
Like what's funny is like I like the end theme. The end theme is very uplifting and such. That intro bit, didn't like it. It was just like, this is like my adult brain. Like, I'm sure my child brain would be like, oh, this is cute and whimsy, and I like the Totoro, and like all the little bugs and stuff. And then like my it's like when you're an adult and suddenly like nursery rhymes become horror. It was very much like that kind of like feeling. But yeah, the scene where they you had something about the truck and the or is it just like mundane horror? It's like, what are you doing with your children on that thing?
Oh, it was horrible. Kids don't have seat belts or in the back of that thing, but so the family's shown moving.
Yeah,
and they it doesn't look like they have a lot of possessions. They actually got more possessions than I thought they could fit into that little thing.
Oh, they found a way.
Oh yeah, and the kids are riding in a dresser, and that's kind of bizarre. They see somebody who, like, as they're bicycling by, they like the older sister tells the younger ones like quit leaning out the window. There's they think they see a cop, which is good.
Yeah, it's like, quick, duck down. like I remember doing that in my 20s. Like my buddies and I would be we'd have like the back seat of my. This is probably a little telling. The back seat of my van would be like completely down, so like you had this big old like trunk space because like I used to like move a lot of stuff for my family. But I'd have my friends in there, and it's like, oh, we don't just lay in the back, it's fine. and they're just like, oh yeah, I'll just lay back if we go past a police car. It's like great. Yeah, well, no, you got to bear in mind, Adam. This is in 1958, is when this movie's set. So
Okay.
it's 1958 rural Japan.
I did not know it was 1958. I had no idea what time. It seemed very rural. I mean, roads were dirt. The hospital. I mean, I knew
The
it
hospital
was.
is like very traditional, like almost like a hospice kind of thing.
Yeah, the house was definitely not modern. It was very old school and unsafe. Like so the horror for me is the unsafety that the kids are placed in. Because as soon as they get to this house, they
Oh
run out
god.
there and start pushing on a support beam to some kind of structure on like a porch.
Yeah, the
Like,
veranda, like I think that's like the spot, like the shade area for like a veranda.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that post is just moving. I mean, it looks like it's a fucking like railroad tie, kind of like that
Yeah.
big around, and like it's gonna kill them, and they're having fun. And where's that dumb fucking dad at?
He's helping the guy carry stuff into the house, and then yeah, that house is first off. I really love that house. I think it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Just as like from a design standpoint, and much how like the girls comment like right off the get go. Yeah, no, that place is haunted. Like it screams haunted. And
Oh,
yeah, it just like. I've had this conversation with my sister before, because again, like we both have seen this movie, we both like it. We've watched it with Niece Cultist, and yeah, we've realized that like all you need to do for that intro scene of them moving into that house, you just need to change the music to like violin strings or like some kind of like very moody like
the Magnus Archives.
yeah I'm not Oh really? Okay, I've not actually watched. I should really listen to the Magnus Archives.
It just ended, I think. So yeah, you can.
I can get caught up.
Yeah, but it's just like a cello, like kind of drone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that. Yeah, drone, like a drone ambient noise in the background, like kind of like that you see in horror films. Because a lot of the shots in the like while the girls are exploring the house and like when they're looking up at the house, when their dad tells them to go hunting for the stairs up to the attic because it's not there. Yeah, that just change the music from like whimsy and cheerful to like drone, and it takes on a horror movie like scene shots. The way everything is like shot. I do like in quotes shot because it's all animated, but the way everything is drawn to look like movie scenes. Like again, that's one thing I love about Miyazaki films is they are cinematic in that they are treated like actual movies, like with camera shots and stuff. They're not just like it's not like just a cartoon. They're treated like animated film. And yeah, for me, all you gotta do is just change the music, and like some of the scenes just like really get creepy. Like when they do find the attic. First off, I had to like double take on like that the door that the attic where the attic is or the stairway to the attic is, because you get like a window shot right next to it. And it almost looks like I think this is just because of like the perspective and like the outdoor scene is a little bit more watercolory than the indoor scene because like there's motion and stuff. But it almost seemed like that door went to nowhere and then they open it up and it goes upstairs.
I thought the same exact thing, and I actually think the door does go to nowhere. I mean, it was so bizarre.
I think it's a forced perspective thing. Like it's a movie, it's an animated feature from like 1988, and it is a superb animation. But there are certain things that there's always going to be a flaw somewhere here and there. But yeah, I think it is intended to be like, oh, that's a little like that's part of the little like cubby there, and then yeah, it goes up into the stair, up to the attic, and that shot in particular, especially with the acorn, like because like when they first get into the house, they find acorns that like are falling from their ceiling, and so then they open up the door to the stairway up to the attic. And it's all dark, pitch black up there, and they're looking down. They're looking up from the ground floor up to this attic, and a single acorn like just ticks down the stairs toward them, almost like a creature's just like baiting them to come to its lair.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've seen that scene in horror movies a couple of times, like where something like leaves like a little trail of breadcrumbs for Hansel and Gretel to come to the cauldron.
Did you ever see Hill House Haunting?
Hunting on Hill House. You mean
Yeah.
the Netflix
Yeah.
film or?
Yeah, the series, yeah, on Netflix.
I've watched about halfway. I think I'm halfway through the series.
Okay.
I still got to finish it up.
It was very. I mean, there's parts of that house that was kind of reminiscent of that to me. Like the creepy, like the ghost little mite things, spooky. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
but
the Soot
whatever.
Gremlins.
Yeah, the soot gremlins were something. I liked how Dad just like irreverently throws out, "Mom, yeah, it could be Beelzebub," kind of bullshit like that.
To be fair, that's my family.
Yeah, well, I
Like,
would have done the same thing too. But I mean, I'm critiquing someone else's parenting here now, Chris.
yes, clear.
But like I honestly think that if I were going to borrow something from this, I'd say that room doesn't. There is no upstairs.
There is no ups. Yeah, there's actually like a ladder, like somewhere in like that office room that their dad works in. But the
Yeah.
stairs don't actually. That's supposed to be like just a pantry.
Yeah. I just honestly think that like they step into a closet and then maybe they're gone. Maybe this is like a labyrinth Goblin King kind of like scenario.
God.
Which
yeah, we could talk about that in plot growers in our plot grower segment.
Yeah.
With like how we make this gameable, because like I could see like a Little Fears like Closet Land sort of scenario going there.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I guess the one last thing I'd like to mention about the introduction is the little neighbor kid yelling at that place is haunted.
Yeah. It's like, first off, what a jerk.
Yeah.
Secondly,
his damn hats.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he has like alternating hats, doesn't he?
Yeah, from some civil engineer, like a conductor hat or like a policeman hat.
It's probably actually like a soldier's hat, like because from his dad is my guess. Because this is post World War II.
Yeah,
and that looks kind of like a hat from a military uniform in Japan.
I can see that.
Also, with regards to like the dad's kind of like just like, oh yeah, it must be haunted. That we like really like kind of going in like and bringing like just flagrantly like offhandedly saying it's like yep, got to be soot gremlins and other little spirit things, and like believing his kids. Like first off, I think that's a good thing. We actually have a father figure that's like doesn't like blatantly like discredit his children. But also I think it also comes from like the Japanese view of like of Shintoism and animism. Because that is used like some of those themes are in this movie as well, like with the Shinto shrine at the camphor tree, and that like when this is going a little bit later, like a little bit ahead of us, but when Mai comes back and talks about Totoro, the dad's response is to take them to the camphor tree, like to the actual shrine at the camphor tree, to say hello to Totoro because he figures it's a nature spirit.
Yeah,
like, and he just accepts that. So I wonder how much of that is just like cultural, like just kind of culturally ingrained.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. I can see that. We're viewing it from a Western point of view. That my dad, I told him of haunted shit I've seen. He's like, he just looks at me and just rolls his eyes, like to the point that you can hear him moving his head, kind of dramatic Robert Downey Jr. kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's just like the difference of like East and West, probably, of like the culture, like the perspective on things.
Yeah.
So again, one of the reasons why we're able to paint a bit of a horror picture on this otherwise family feature
is because we know nothing.
we are ignorant of that. We know nothing, Jon Snow. Sorry.
That introduction scene also introduced the intro scene where they go to the house and all that. You're also introduced to the granny character, which kind of freaked me out too. She goes, so this little old lady who was from a distance shown in the beginning working in a rice field with her family.
Yeah.
Is also apparently the caretaker of that house before they either bought it or rented it or whatever. She was taking care of it, which kudos for her for keeping it up to fucking code. I say sarcastically, but
yeah,
you need somebody could get killed in this death trap. But that could be part of the horror aspect too. I mean, she's depicted as a benign character, nice, loving, and all that. But there's this part of me, and it's probably, growing up in the '80s, and it's like, people. I think that's when, God, I'm trying to think. Otis Toole and Henry Lee Lucas. They. Have you ever heard of? You remember when you worked at Walmart? Did you remember the codes that they gave you for, like, when you hear this on the announcements, like shit's going down, like. I think
Oh,
Code Brown was like, "Hey, there's somebody with a gun here." I don't know if
yeah.
Canadian Walmart had that, but American did.
No, we
But there
usually have
was
it like it's like there's a code and then it's like somebody's like clearly shoplifting, but like so like
yeah,
or so loss prevention needs to come by and like
yeah,
and follow
or
this person. So
there was a Code Adam. I remember this from late
Mm.
'90s, early 2000s, and Code Adam was named after Adam Walsh, which is John Walsh's son. That they think Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole, two prolific serial killers in the '80s in America, like they got him and all that. So my parents kind of raised me with this, growing up in the '80s, like don't talk to strangers and all that, which were rules that I teach my kids too and stuff like that. But just them letting this woman into their lives and her asking to be called Granny,
yeah,
kind of like fucking wigged me out a little
I
bit.
I get you. And again, I think it's because like again, this is supposed to be set in like the 50s, where like that was a little bit more kosher. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit more like there's a little bit more trust with your fellow neighbor and stuff. Like and
Yeah.
again, it might be also like I think honestly, it's not so much not even just like Japan and like their culture and stuff like that, but like it's also just like earlier times, like the 50s, like there was a sense of community. Like people, like the community looked out for your kids as well as you, or that was like kind of the ideal,
Yeah,
or like or an idea, like
I think no, I interrupted you and I'm rude. I feel like that's the story that we're told. But if you look through
yeah,
history, like we're getting this like whitewashed version of that. I mean, there were fucked up people then and there's fucked up people
oh
now.
yeah,
I think it's just communication and all that and
yeah.
other factors. But yeah, you're 100% correct that I'm looking at it from a modern gaze as well. And that just it's freaky, but we'll go
And
back to that.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, like again, I have in my notes like the Granny character introduction is like the cheerful, creepy, like the creepy in the know elder character from like a horror story or something like that. And again, like that's part of like what we're touching on in this episode of Anime Rigamortis and Al Dente Rigamortis is we're taking this from like the modern standpoint of like from our modern viewpoint, because both of us have watched this movie and have gleaned some horror angles that are probably not there or not meant to be there, but because of our like our modern perspective, they're there for us. Yeah, and again, like yeah, that town that house is like there. It's the 50s again. Like they probably got it like it's like it sounds like his like their father's like is a professor for the college in the city. So like they're not too off, like they're not too like badly off. But yeah, it seems like a very there's a lot of stuff that here that we can pick at that I don't think it was intended.
The kids are obviously outsiders
Yeah,
from this agrarian kind of culture and society too. And I mean, they're welcomed by some, but even by the ones that are their own peer group,
yeah.
at times they're the little boy kind of shuns them. Of course,
Honestly,
my
yeah, sorry.
Mhm.
I
My
interrupted you this
8-year-old
time.
was watching
Yeah.
that going, she was going, they're going to fall in love. They're going to fall in love. I'm like, don't start this stuff with me. Come on. Watch the cartoon.
That's kind of where I like what I thought for like the kids, like the
Yeah,
kids
that's where it's
being this
going
way
to.
because like the kids being this brat to this girl because he's got some emotions, probably is my
Mhm.
guess. Like it does seem like he's just being bratty, because that's how he's able to like, that's how he's able to emote essentially is kind of what I got from that. But honestly, like even like yeah, like I when Mai doesn't want to be left alone with Granny. And like forces Granny to walk over to the school and like talk to Satsuki about it. It's like, and then like yeah, suddenly Mai's just there in the classroom with Sai, and like all the kids are like giggling, but like also like excited to see that this little kid in their classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's very again like it's the only person that seemed really uncomfortable with it is Satsuki, who just wants to like work and like do her school stuff.
And Maya's drawing pictures of Totoro, which
Yeah.
honestly, yeah, we're getting a cart ahead of the horse here. So when we actually are getting ready to get to the introduction, so after we go through the whole creepy intro,
Yeah.
there is the acorns, which are kind of reoccurring throughout the, you were mentioning like breadcrumbs kind of such. So you have Mai walking around in the backyard.
Yeah, with the dad
looking-
working furiously at like at his account at
Mhm.
like either some accounts or like maybe some essays he's writing, he's looking over and stuff, ignoring Mai, who's just wandering around the property. Simpler
to the point
times.
that, like he hadn't ate lunch and he didn't make sure she ate lunch because the older sister
until Satsuki got home. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry.
No, it's cool. But so she's walking around and she peeks through like a can or a cup that had the bottom ripped out of it, which totally reminded me of our Little Fears game with the with Pancake Box Obscura. Like
Yeah.
she looks through it and sees this little ghost gelatin bunny thing.
Yeah, it's like the small, like, so there's three types of Totoros. There's the big one, which is called Totoro, and then the other two I think are just called like Totoros as well. But like, yeah, there's a medium, like a small, like child-sized blue one, and then there's this like little pipsqueak white one that like almost like a white rabbit, like a weird ghost rabbit thing.
And it was very cute. Like she goes chasing it. It runs underneath the house. The daughter, which the insulation underneath that house made me just like, Jesus Christ. Of course, it was an old house, but it looks like boards, and then there's an air gap. It's like
that. Yeah, honestly, so my cottage is built the same way. Like it's built up like off of like it's built above the ground. On those same kind of pillars, and we use it like, again, like my dad uses it for like storage for like all these like piles of plywood and boats and like old like basically like paddle boards and stuff like that. Basically anything that we don't have room for in our shed, we just move underneath the cottage for the winter.
Yeah.
And I remember going underneath there like as a kid, like I was like, oh, like I'll make a little fort in among the debris here.
That's cool.
But yeah, that for me, that was my like kind of connection to like her looking underneath the house. And it's like, oh, this house doesn't have a basement. It has like that supports, all those supports.
And there was this really cute scene where she's looking in one side, and then it kind of like the medium-sized one, and this little pipsqueak little ghost kind of ease back in the background and all that.
Yeah.
And then she goes chasing them, and then that's where she kind of finds her way to the camper tree and Totoro.
Yeah, just like chases the white rabbit to Wonderland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very, very much that kind of like setup, especially like when they go into the when she goes into the bushes and like finds those like tunnels of like interlocking like branches and brambles.
Yeah.
And then makes it all the way out to the camphor tree. Again, Dad's just working away. It's like completely like ignoring the world around him. And then she falls through like a hole, like a knot in the camphor tree, and falls right onto or no, it doesn't fall onto Totoro at that point, but falls into his lair, his like little like house.
Yeah.
And first instinct is to like touch the tail moves, then jump onto the body of this giant bear effectively, and just like get right up to its face and just poke it.
It opens its mouth that could easily bite her head off.
Yeah, this is the second time this week that I've seen something like a scene like that where like something gets picked up like to a thing's head, and it's like all right, now it's going to chomp its head off. But then it doesn't. It completely like rips that expectation away, and just like, oh no, it has the potential to be creepy and like dark, but then it like, oh, he's just yawning. Yeah,
and maybe it's a nice juxtaposition of like as adults we're seeing it like, but the kid's like, wow,
yeah, oh, that's so weird. It's like, I want a friend like Totoro that I can just like sleep on, like a giant teddy bear.
So like she ends up actually just staying down in that little burrow with Totoro and wakes up, and she
only wakes up until like when her sister finally finds her.
Yeah. After that, like, have you seen May? Oh, she hadn't had dinner yet.
I was like, Jesus Christ. Like,
yeah,
exactly. It's like, his name's Tatsuo. He's like, God damn it, Tatsuo. But yeah, like, because like you gotta imagine, like the daughter got home from school, so like school's probably like 1 or 2, maybe 3 o'clock or 4.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like the kid's been out there, like he's been working away for like probably like 6 hours, 8 hours, and then the kid's been out there in the wilderness for like 6, 8 hours, just sleeping on what effectively is the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming assuming that, like, because they almost like to me, that scene where like Sasuke finds her back in the woods, like just in a clearing of that bramble bush like maze. It's almost like a scene like where it's like, was Totoro real? Or is it like, or was she just like kind of imagining all that and then like fell asleep out in the woods?
Well, that whole idea is repeated multiple times too. Like
Yeah.
after this scene, and you kind of alluded to it, that they go out and they pray to introduce themselves to the spirits and all that. And then what was the inciting incident where Totoro gave them a bunch of seeds? Like where
Oh, okay.
what
So they got,
happened there?
yeah. So that actually, so that's actually when the bus scene, when they go out to the bus,
Oh,
because
okay.
it's raining and like their dad didn't bring his umbrella, so they go out and walk over to the bus stop and just wait there for hours. Like people come by and just like in the middle of this dark, like it gets dark, the street light turns on in this rural wooded like path, or well, like dirt road. And then like, yeah, Totoro decides to like just appear like next to them and starts like kind of just waiting there with them. At that point, like for some reason, like no one really knows, he's just stalking them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's revealed, and that's when we get the iconic cat bus first
Yeah.
show up. And that's where what Totoro was actually waiting for, was to get onto the cat bus to go somewhere. And that it's because he's like there, and like because I guess Sasuke gave Totoro her father's umbrella to use. That's why it gave her a little like a pit, like a stipends of, or
Mm-hmm.
like an offering, like an exchange
Yeah.
of like a little like pouch of like a little leaf pouch that when they unfurled it, there's a bunch of acorns and seeds. So I'm wondering if like acorns are like the spirit, like these like Totoro's like currency or something, because they're nature
Yeah.
spirits.
They never actually. You never see one eat anything, actually.
Yeah, they don't eat them, and like the one like is like running around with a sack of them, like a bandit,
Yeah.
literally like a raccoon bandit. um, and
And
yeah, that's where they get the seeds from, the acorns, is from that little pouch, and then they decide that Mai and Sasuke decide to grow them out in their yard to make like a new forest, but they're not growing. And then like one night while they're sleeping, they see that Totoro and his two companions are performing a ritual to make them
mhm.
grow around, and then the kids hop out there and get spirited away a little bit and start
Yeah.
joining them with that.
And then, like, yeah, the trees like burst out of the ground and just all meld into one gigantic tree. And then they're sitting up at the top with the spirits, just blowing on whistles and stuff like that. And father's sitting there working.
Yeah, completely oblivious until like he
Yeah.
looks over and is like, "Huh."
Look, guys, I'm not the best parent in the world, trust me. But like when I hear weird noises, I always check. Like, and occasionally, like I think my kids are in this room. I'm gonna go look. Yep, they're still in this room. Because
Yeah,
occasionally you'll walk in and then like, oh, there's nobody here. What the fuck?
yeah,
So you, hmm
yeah. No, as a guy who lives in around, again, lives out in the sticks myself, and like has a niece around a lot of the time. Whenever she goes outside, one of us has to be there, because I always have like this fear of just like her going off into the woods, or worse, going out onto the road. Like I've seen, I think again, it's just like our day and age as well.
uh,
Like we've smartened up a little bit about like the world
well,
around us.
and we understand, coyotes for starters. Like they're not gonna go after me or you.
They're gonna
A
go after the
5
small ones.
Yeah, a 5-year-old kid? Yeah. Like, if there's enough
Nothing
of
I'm
them.
thinking. Yeah. Heck,
So
I've seen video footage of like a little kid out in like a big yard, and like the parents are there, and then like a hawk just like comes and grabs the kid and flies off. Like that's terrifying, but like that's a thing that I saw on YouTube like a couple of months ago.
yeah. You gotta like that hands-off approach to parenting. No, like when you don't hear them, that's when you need to start looking for them.
Yeah.
First off,
Like I think there's like you can coddle too much, but I think there's like you need to have a balance. You can't just like let them
yeah.
roam. You need to
Like
like keep an
I
eye
would,
on them at least. Yeah.
I would never just like go about my business if my kids were out in the yard. Even like if they're out on the swing set, I'll take that as an opportunity to do dishes so I can look out the window at them or something like that. Because I live in a place where there's poisonous snakes. I've
Yeah.
killed poisonous snakes in my yard. I'm not going to just go. I mean, stuff can go wrong
Oh yeah.
quick,
Yeah.
and
So when we
Mhm.
first moved out to this neighborhood, like we're out in a development out in the woods. I remember like we came out of the city, like my family like moved out from the city to the country. Very actually kind of similar situation, I guess, to the Totoro or to like the I can never remember their last name, the Kusakabes.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like their living situation kind of thing, how it changed. But we were told by our neighbors, it's like, oh yeah, you don't have to worry about like locking your doors. Like it's a very safe community, and it's like, and my folks are just like, no, we're locking our doors. Crazy people. And then like, what's funny is like, time would tell because like we had like not one but two people who had escaped a correctional facility, like a county over that had wandered into our neighborhood. Like not like not so much like criminals, but like somebody who was like mentally unfit that needed help.
Yeah.
But they would, yeah, two of them over the course of like a couple of years, two of them wandered into our neighborhood, and like people were on the lookout for them. Like one of them got into our neighbor's house. Luckily, the neighbors weren't there at the time, but like I remember coming home and seeing that a bunch of our neighbors were at that house, and they were keeping him there in the house so that they while the authorities showed up. So it's like
God.
again, like but and I've told the story before about my buddies and I walking out and doing hikes out in the woods at night and being escorted out of the woods via a pack of coyotes who were like just 20 feet away from us out in the brush. Like, and we didn't notice them until I heard like some twigs snap and a yipping sound to our left as we were leaving the woods. Like they had been stalking us the entire time. So yeah, woods be scary, yo.
Yeah, they can be. So yeah, you have this thing where the tree grows up, and then all of a sudden the next morning it's gone, but like little sprouts have magically came out of the ground. So I mean, there's this. Did it happen? Did it not happen? This is like one of two instances. No, this is two of two instances so far where you dream something, but you wake up and everything's back to normal. Now, is it the
But there's like
magic?
there's like a slight like there's a little bit more. It's kind of like the imagination has like gone wild at night, like when the adults are not noticing.
Mm-hmm.
And then things become mundane again. It's almost like again with the Little Fears RPG, like we've talked about before, and we've both played it. It feels very much like the belief system of Little Fear,
Mm-hmm.
where like when the kids are alone, the fear the fear amps up. That's when things get scary. But then like as soon as you like according to the core game, like as soon as you like defeat the baddie or defeat the monster, like the kids, and like the parents walk into the room to wonder what all the commotion's about, and you look over and the monster that you guys just fought is a teddy bear, or like is a mundane object that was amped up by belief magic.
Yeah.
So it's to me it's kind of that sort of like enchantment is, or
Okay.
like again like you said right off the get go, it's like through the eyes of a child. Like these kids are using their imagination to build this giant tree when really what's probably going on is that they're just like out there in the night and their dad's just watching them do a little dance around their garden.
It's nice to think that he was actually watching. So we've got two instances. Well, I keep putting out numbers and stuff like that. I apologize. I think the next big thing it cuts over to. Of course, we had the little kids at school. There's a little bit of relationship building where they're caught in the rain. Well, actually, that was before.
Yeah, they're caught in the rain. No, yeah, that's
I think it's the garden scene was next, where they were going through picking ears of corn. Very he who dwells behind the rows kind of things like that. But whenever I see cornfields, that's what I think. But yeah, they're
I
helping
understand.
Granny.
I've driven through Ohio. I understand.
just keep driving.
Yeah, just keep driving. Don't stop.
The corn will get you. But
what was really just as a quick thing aside, like one of our family road trips was down to like Pennsylvania area, and we had to drive through like Ohio, like part of Ohio, or like like flat open area to get like to where we were going. And like the day before, like the night before we went on this trip, I watched Children of the Corn for the first time. That was a bad move on my part because I was just leering at all the cornfields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how Ohio is, really, once you get up to middle and northern Ohio. I mean, you've got like Columbus or Cleveland, and then cornfield. Nike outlet for some reason, cornfield.
But yeah, this was definitely we get to the vegetable, like the vegetable garden of Granny's.
Yeah, and then Granny makes the offhanded, "This is my Chekhov corn" moment here, where Granny says that we're going to feed your mom these fruits, and they'll make her better and stuff, our vegetables, and they'll make her better and stuff like that. So you see May holding like the ear of corn that she's going to give her mother, which is kind of a nice little comparison to like we see the magic of childhood imagination and the wondrous things, and then we see her as May's holding on to the corn. They get the telegram from the hospital. There's been a communication that the mother who was going to be coming home that weekend had fallen ill, and it sounded like they were calling in the immediate family for, if you want to see her, you better get up here.
It wasn't great. It was like, first off, those doctors are assholes. Like, even like, especially when you find out like later, it's like, I don't know what the doctor was thinking. Like, it's just a small cold. I'm fine. It's like, you sons of bitches.
I thought she was dying. I thought here it is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like oh god, like I thought they were gonna like rush there and we were gonna have like a heartbreaking moment, but no, she's fine. It's like Miyazaki like is just like the master of like tension building and then like relieving it with like something completely banal.
It was sad. Like, I was like, oh man, this is gonna happen. And you see May runs her way. Like, the kids are totally kept out of the loop, and that's a huge complaint I have. But I mean, and narratively it works. But the kids are gonna stay with Granny and all that. Dad's gonna, there's no other extended family really to even take care of them anyways. But the younger daughter just runs away to what was later described as what would have been a 3-hour walk for an adult to the hospital to give her mom the corn.
Those asshole passerbys. It's like, that's like a 3-hour walk for an adult. As the child is right there, it's like, well, good luck with that. Hope you find your sister. And they
fuckers.
Exactly. They just bike off. It's like, what the hell?
And then they find this shoe, and you think that floating in a river or a pond, and then they literally go to dredging for the body.
And we were talking about Kabe, I think his name is the boy. Kobe. Let me just quickly pull it up. Kanta. Kanta. He's been a little shit this entire movie, basically.
Yeah.
And he just stirs up the pot again when he meets Sasuke on the road, and they're like, Granny and the others found a sandal in a pond. They're searching it now. And then she just starts running like that direction, and then like Kanta's just like, oh, it might not be hers though. Like off in the distance. It's like, oh god. Like, okay, so let me just sit you back and like tell my experience with this scene and with my niece cultist. So there I am watching this movie with my niece. Like, we're cuddled up in a chair, watching the movie, and we get to this part, and and like the granny is like freaking out, like she's like quivering with the sandal as like people behind her are like CSI like dredging a pond. Like, look in that, like check that deep. There's a deep area over there. Check that area with a pole. It's like, Jesus Christ. And then Sasuke arrives on the scene, like panting and like out of breath, and Granny's like desperately asking her, like, is this my shoe? Tell me. And after like a very tense moment, because it's a very tense moment, Sasuke doesn't smile, but she just like still has the same like kind of like pitiless or like kind of like sad or like kind of exhausted and sad expression on her face. She's like, no, it's not hers. And everyone just relaxes, and and like somebody in the background is like, oh, Granny, all right, guys, Granny over exaggerated or got ahead of herself again. It's like it's not my shoe, it's not my sandal. And I remember Niece Cultist looking up to me after that scene happened, and she's like, well, whose sandal was it? And I had the same thought. I was like, that's what I want to know. It's like,
yeah,
it's like,
it's not the right body. Let's just throw it back in.
Right? It's like there's still like my exact thought was like that does not negate the fact that there might be another child missing or something, or like another child in the pond.
All right, let me ruin this entire experience for you right now.
Oh no.
That's where the movie ends. It was her shoe. And then we're going on this. Have you seen Taxi Cab?
I have not.
De Niro.
I'm sorry.
Jody.
I haven't.
Okay, it's fine. I'm owed. They argue that the end of that movie doesn't really happen because he does this big Rambo thing at the end, and then the lighting's all different. So it's kind of like you can look at it like these are his dying moments, and he is fantasizing about all this stuff that's happening and things like that. I just want, like, if you look at it, everything goes completely off the rails. So the older sister's running like all over the place, just insane. We have no idea where she's going. The geography's funky. She yells for Totoro. Totoro shows up and summons the cat bus. And then we go on a magical journey in the cat bus and find May. And then they go with May, and there's the scene with mom and dad are in the hospital, and the I think I mean, it's a kids' movie.
You're absolutely right, because there is not a scene, like, even after like they leave the hospital, it cuts to credits and just shows like little still frames of like the mom getting better and coming to the house, and them like, oh my god, like that's the sandal scene, like the sandal confirmation scene, is when Sasuke slips into Fantasyland.
Yeah,
because she can't deal. Holy shit!
Did I just ruin it for you?
I mean. When people say that, it's like, did I just ruin that? It's like, no, you made it horrific and better for me. Like from a horror standpoint. Like I'm weird. I like horror, like when things get horror. So
people don't like watching movies with me sometimes. I'll just, hey, I wonder if this is like, and then they'll think about it.
God damn it.
So, you can,
I love that.
We can, because it goes really off the rails. Like she's riding the bus. They scroll a message with the corn and all that. Like, yeah, it could be seen as fantasy. And at that point, she just broke.
Yeah, she failed her last sand check. And
we already went past the crumble.
Yep, we got the crumble. Yeah, we've now mixed two sanity systems. Or does sanity crumble as well, or is that just a red markets?
No, you have breaking points in Call of Cthulhu, but yeah, she hit her final breaking point.
Yeah, and she just went to La La Land. Because so like ignoring, not like pushing that aside for a second. I did like that, like when the cat bus does arrive and like it runs past like two people and like they just feel like a breeze, they don't see it, and she realizes that other people can't see it. Is like that was also cool. Like to me, I thought that was cool with like. Oh, it's like just like a ghost thing, like it's a like a spirit thing that like nobody else can see except for children. But that makes it so much creepier. Is that like that? Yeah, she's just like she comments like that as if she is like oh, that makes sense in my new world where everything's better.
The only thing that would make it slightly more creepy is if she'd had a near-death experience prior to this, and we could say her spirit's on the bus.
Oh God. Oh Jesus Christ. Yeah. Like, or no, even where like she so like it doesn't quite end at like the it doesn't stop like at the sandal part, but like when she comes home, there's like some kind of an accident or something at home, like while she's like looking for Totoro, like she slips on something, and then Totoro arrives to help her, and that's where we get the where things that like drop off, because like now she's like a spirit like with Totoro and finds Mai. Yeah. And that's why the mom sees them in the tree. Is she sees the ghost? Oh God!
She used to see ghosts. Remember?
Oh,
also,
fuck.
it cuts back, and it's for at the very beginning of the film, and the pillar fell on her, and she's dead. And the entire thing, like if you want to go,
God damn it! Yeah, that pillar. Oh shit!
So I don't want the thoughts to go through my head. I would like to just go ahead and add that out there. Just
that's good. I like it. It's creepy. It's sufficiently creepy. Sorry.
And no, you're right.
Like I think if this was to be a creepypasta, and this would be the lost episode of My Neighbor Totoro, where like it just ends at that scene, and then like instead of that whimsical scene, we get that, but we also get like scenes of her like we get scenes that like basically show the others, like show the wrongness of it.
Yeah.
Like that would be how it would like how a lost episode should be done of it if you're gonna do like a creepypasta of that.
What is the Grave of the Fireflies thing that you had mentioned here? Now, I mean,
right,
I assume it was the mother dying of radiation poisoning. But...
Okay, so there's that. No, actually, so here's the thing that I was told about actually last week regarding My Neighbor Totoro, actually by the Kame House Party guys. So I'd heard actually a couple weeks earlier from when we're recording this, I saw on Twitter somebody talk about how back in the 90s, an executive at one of the broadcast channels had the smart idea to double up Grave of the Fireflies with My Neighbor Totoro as a double feature on TV. It's like doing that, like, and it came out of like somebody like having the same idea to double feature Watership Down with Plague Dogs.
Oh God.
It's like you thought Watership Down was bad, was dark and depressing. Plague Dogs here, hold my beer. And then, but like, I think it's even worse with Grave of the Fireflies and My Neighbor Totoro, because like just how contrasting it is. So like for anybody who hasn't seen it, I personally haven't even seen Grave of the Fireflies yet. I know a little bit about it. It's a very sad, very depressing, bittersweet animated film about war survivors during World War II and the bombings of Kobe, Osaka, of a city called Kobe, near Osaka in Japan.
Now, this wasn't the atomic bomb. This is just bombs, or was it?
Yeah, these are as far as I know, it's not actually the A bomb that they're survivors of. It's just like regular bombing run. I think it might be World War One. I'm just going to quickly double check here. Grave of the Firefly. When is that set?
World War II.
Plot is 1945. So it is. Yeah. So it's during World War II. And yeah, it's about a teenage boy. About a boy and I think like a smaller child. It's either like a sibling or like another person, another survivor that they meet and like befriend and such, or help along. And it's sad and depressing. It's a dark tale about war and surviving in war and such. And not to spoil too much, but like the kids die at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's about all I know about the movie, as far as I can tell from my like kind of pop culture osmosis of the movie. At some point, I'll watch it.
So you're gonna watch that again with that one with your niece, right?
Yeah. But the Grave of the Fireflies theory that I kind of also have, just researching a little bit of it today, I kind of debunked. But the theory was that Grave of the Fireflies takes place in the same location as My Neighbor Totoro, just a decade later. And so like Totoro and them are like the spirits of the kids and stuff like that in Grave of the Fireflies. Changed and they had like basically like the family in My Neighbor Totoro are like living on the soil of where all this devastation and like horror happened. Now that is debunked because My Neighbor Totoro takes place in give me a second while I just quickly, because I had it here. So My Neighbor Totoro takes place in, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, Tokorozawa, near Saitama, Japan, which is closer to Tokyo than and Kobe is in Hyogo, Japan, which is next to Osaka. So it's about a 7-hour drive. So they do not take place in the same location, based on like where they are supposed to be set. But it's still kind of a creepy notion that I got when somebody told me that theory today or like this week. I was like, oh God, that's worth adding to the thing, because like what if that's why there's so many spirits in this little like countryside area. It's not just like nature spirits; it's straight up like spirits of the dead from a world war. Dark. Not to add more darkness to the dimming lights. Yeah, the only other spooky scene, like for me to pick away at this story, you kind of blew it out of the water with like, what if she just stops right at
Yeah.
at the sandal? I was like, oh god. But yeah, the only other thing is like the dad should be rolling sand checks when the tree is like when the ritual of Shub Niggurath concludes and the giant tree just manifests above like in their on their property line. But again, he's just sitting there like looking at it like, huh. Also, with regards to the cat bus, this creepy biopunk, like whimsical biopunk thing out of a storybook, like the cat that is a bus with multiple legs and stuff like that. It has mice as like its headlights.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware? So I was looking at the wiki page, and apparently there's a short film that's a sequel to My Neighbor Totoro that Miyazaki made. And it's called Mai and the Kitten Bus, and it's about Mai and an adventure she has one night with the kitten bus, the offspring of the cat bus from the film.
Of course she does.
And I'm just like, wait, this thing reproduces?
Well, I mean, when you're dead, it don't matter. Never mind.
I mean, yeah, nature's
dark.
spirits do what they want.
Yeah. When a mommy cat bus loves a daddy cat bus very much.
Oh god. And yeah, I loved the it's very much like when even negating the alternate ending you've provided.
Yeah.
The whole like going into that bus to go places is like a child being spirited away. Like it's very much in lieu with like not even just like Japanese folklore, but like folklore across the world of like people getting whisked away by the spirit world.
Mm-hmm. Like the Fae.
Yeah.
I mean the Goblin King.
or sorry, Charon.
Yeah.
Or Charon from Greek mythology, just like the river Styx, like being the ferryman, kind of to a degree.
Would you like the cat bus to take you to the land of the dead?
That's what happens there. Like they right before they moved on, they had to give their mom that little token of goodbye. Oh god, I can't believe we made that so dark.
Well, I mean, honestly, I feel like I've ruined the entire film with me just pointing out that she's dead. Like, I mean, she.
It's good. Again, I'm sure somebody's gonna say like you've just ruined this movie for me, like in our comments. But know that you have not ruined it for me.
Sir, I will subscribe to your podcast and then unsubscribe to your podcast, Mr. Adam, because of that comment.
How dare you? I am subscribing to your podcast so that I can leave a 1-star review on iTunes.
Sons of bitches.
Yeah.
It's I tell you, like, as I think we've kind of got to the tail end of this, and for like fodder, I mean, in the beginning, I mean, I'm watching this twice with my children, going, what can I create out of this? Is creepy. What? And I mean, a lot of them is like things that I would put into a game or a story, but it's nothing that I would hinge an entire. Like, I don't have an entire scenario set up, or I don't have an entire story, like little creepy scenes here and there borrowed from it.
Yeah.
But I think what I really, I don't know how one would frame this, but I would like to see this turned into a plot where you're playing Kanta, or you're playing another kid that moves into town and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I would, honestly, these girls are basically living in a spooky old house by themselves. Their father doesn't even exist or anything like that. I think you could do an entire thing to where you're.
God, I just I got another horror thing. It's like, yeah, no, their dad, ghost the whole time.
No, dad's a ghost, mom's a ghost.
Ghost dad. Sorry.
Like, I think both kids need to be together because even though I went completely dark a moment ago saying like the 5-year-old child's dead and stuff like that, I would like to. I have a thing for kids in my games not getting killed and stuff like that. And I mean, I would honestly set this up as like a Fear Itself kind of game, or maybe Kids on Bikes if you wanted to make it a little bit older, and your neighboring kids that are basically rescuing these kids from like this bleed over from the spirit world where they're living in this abandoned house. Maybe they're runaways. They've like made up everything in their head, and they may even go to school and then go back to this dilapidated, unsafe house kind of deal.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because, like, I think so our friends over at the Drunk and the Ugly podcast, while back, like a couple years back, they did a Icker Falls Little Fears campaign, or they tried to like do one. And one of the NPC characters in that, a little bit of spoilers, but like honestly, you should check it out. It's actually a really good actual play for what they do have of it. There is an NPC character, like a kid that they're all kids that moved into Icker Falls and are going to school there and stuff, and like trying to learn, like figure out these weird mysteries about the town. And one of the kids that they that is introduced as an NPC has a very similar kind of like setup to what you're bringing up. Is like they are, you're not really sure what their situation is, but like whenever they go home, like when one of the player characters goes to their house to like see where they are, like to like check up on them, they find the house completely empty, and like to the point of like there hasn't been a person like really living in this house for months or years.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's like they say that, like, but when they're at school, like the kid says like, oh yeah, I gotta go talk to my dad and mom and ask them if I can come hang out with you guys. But like, yeah, it's just the kid like living in this house alone, because that's what they've been told by some mysterious group, by some mysterious force. So it's kind of similar situation that has been done.
Yeah,
but like I'm not saying like, oh, it's been done before, but like it's like just to prove your that's how I think that how it would be handled. Like have that character, yeah, like they're just like you're playing all the neighbors of like the kids that just moved in, or the kids that have started showing up at school, and then like, oh, where do you guys live? It's like, oh, we live at the Kubaragi house up on the hill. It's like, oh, I thought my granny was watching that, or was maintaining that place. And then you might even have like the granny's like been like watching the place and like and taking care of the place, and is taking care of the kids like secretly. Like she's kind of like maybe either like coherent or like maybe even delusional a little bit with her age. That like that's why she hasn't told anybody that these kids are there. Like she wants to have more grandkids, maybe. To kind of paint the granny in a little bit more of a twisted light.
What was the Nicole Kidman horror film from the early 2000s?
Nicole Kidman horror film.
It's like it's a haunted house story where she's in this house with her children.
The Other? No,
The Others. It could almost be kind of the Others type.
Yeah, it's 2001. Nicole Kidman, The Others. Yeah, that's the one with like, it's like, I want my daughter back. I am your daughter, and then because the kid's like underneath a bed sheet or something, and then like she pulls the bed sheet off, and like there's nobody there.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I mean, I think something like the granny just goes over there and she thinks it's haunted or ghosts or something like that. The kids go in there. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of that's the only grounds of anything that I could remotely like make it into a long-term scenario. I think that I would be more inclined to pick a different genre than horror for this. So I feel like you've got this power of imagination, which Little Fears uses imagination in horror grades. But if you weren't going straight up horror, I think if you just went fantastical.
Well, I can give you a thing like Little Fears does have different modes of play. Like it does have like the more kind of traditional horror kind of angle for people that want to play that kind of thing. But it also does have an optional rule for playing dark fantasy, like in terms of like a kid horror like genre, like playing like where you basically beef up the kids' belief powers a lot more, and you play it a little bit lighter on like kids don't die, obviously, or like they just like they may get like knocked out, or like they may get taken out of a scene, but they wouldn't die and stuff like that. So like there is a mode of play that's a lot lighter and a lot more whimsical, just like almost like a darkly whimsical for playing Little Fears. I did actually have an idea that kind of reminded me of something that you've been trying to like figure out or like tackle for a game that came out of this, and it's sort of like it stems on like a little bit more of the big dark part of the story that kind of I focused on, which was the sandal, and then like, oh, there's another kid there. So like you could do this in like probably like in Fear Itself or a Cthulhu game or something, or even again like could be like a creepypasta thing about some search and rescue. Like a search and rescue situation, like search and rescue woods, or like you guys are out, you're rangers looking out, like going out in the woods looking for somebody who's gone missing. It doesn't have to necessarily be a child, It could be like a teen or somebody else that's gone missing out in the woods.
Mhm.
And while you're on that search, you find evidence of another missing person that has not been reported yet. Like, so suddenly you have the worst case scenario, I feel, for a search and rescue situation is that there's another missing person in the middle of your current search.
Yeah. Oh God.
And then you sprinkle in a little bit of supernatural spice, maybe a little bit of the cryptid variety. And you got yourself a big old bowl of horror right there. Just like, and I immediately thought of you because you've talked in the past about like wanting to like use the search and rescue woods.
Yeah.
Like Reddit and creepypasta stories, or even like the was it the 401?
The missing 411.
Yeah, the missing 411 cases. In a game, you just never like you don't know like how to really tackle it. I think this would be a good like kind of plot point, at least like for a game in that kind of situation.
Kind of strange that, I mean, as much as I'm interested in that, I didn't see that. But yeah, you're right. There's even some occurrences where little kids that are some of the people who disappear on those 411 things, if they actually do find them and they're young and all that, they'll say something crazy like
the tall the bear man.
The bear man
me away and like fed me Totoro, which does the bear man kind of sounds like Totoro.
Agreed.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you didn't cut me off. I'm fine. Yeah, that is totally something great. You could, the kids are spouting this nonsense about the missing, their missing sister or something like that, and the bear man, and then, because I want a happy ending with children, then you could insert adults into this. What would kids would see as a beautiful wonderland, it turns into a hellish nightmare.
Like this also like whenever like I think of like the search and rescue ideas, it kind of also reminds me of the Twilight of Gods, the Delta Green game, Fulminate or Operation Fulminate, which is basically Dennis Detweiler's search and rescue scenario, which goes in a very dark place very fast because it's Dennis Detweiler. But also with regards to just like kind of like tying this like to ideas for like creepypastas and stuff. I feel like there is actually a creepypasta that we covered on the show a while back called Mr. Widemouth that is got a similar situation. Like a kid moves up to this new place in the woods, and while they're there, they encounter this like this like talking woodland creature called Mr. Widemouth that wants it to go play. And through the story, like it wants the kid to go with it, like do some like pretty dangerous stuff, like jump out of its window because it promises there's a trampoline at the bottom that it'll be able to jump on. And kind of store like and the kid is able to like basically like say no, I don't think that's a good idea. Like he's a smart kid, so like he doesn't do all the dangerous things that Mr. Widemouth wants him to do.
Yeah.
And then like I think the story ends with him. It's been about a year since or so since I read it, but I think it ends with like the kid coming back as an adult to his place and like then going down the woodland path that Mr. Widemouth always wanted him to go down, and he finds like a graveyard with children with like a child graveyard. And it's like Mr. Widemouth was like the harbinger or like some kind of like a weird like guardian or something of this graveyard in the middle of the woods.
Okay.
And it kind of like reminds again, like it's sort of like My Neighbor Totoro, but like on the other side of the coin, like on the horror side even more.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And again, another thing I kind of got from this idea of My Neighbor Totoro is like when they're going in the house and like they're it's haunted and they're very believing in like haunting stuff and stuff like that. I kind of just like the idea of like a Little Fears game where you're playing as kids who are ghost adventuring, like or just ghost hunting in a town, or in like there's like a local house that's like nobody that like somebody's grandma, like you were saying with like being like the neighbor kids, like the characters are all kids, like a group of kids who want to do ghost adventuring and like ghost hunting because they've seen it online and on TV and stuff. And one of their friends, their grandmother or grandfather is a groundskeeper for a property that has been abandoned or has been like not lived in for for years because of certain circumstances. Maybe there's an urban legend about it. So that's where like that's their access point to getting to this place is and you just basically have like kind of how the kids in My Neighbor Totoro do like wander around the house and see like the soot spirits and like do all and like see Totoro and stuff. kind of have like these kids wandering around a haunted house and just like kind of same situation. Like there's these weird little dark spirits that live in the house that are left over from like from some previous tragedy. And kind of bouncing off of that idea, there's just an idea of like, because kids seem to be like an attraction to ghosts, like they just like kids can see ghosts, or like that trope of like ghosts are pulled towards children. Maybe have a scenario where like you're a Little Fears game where like it's not even that you got your characters want to do the ghost hunting, but your parents are the ones that are ghost hunters, and they're using you guys as kind of like supernatural bait to a degree in their search for the supernatural.
Yeah.
So like they can't see any of the stuff that you guys are basically they're not, I guess, kind of like canaries, but also like fish bait for the supernatural. So like the kids can see the ghost, but like the parents are too preoccupied with like actually like trying to like capture things on camera, or because they're adults they just can't see it. But like the kids get a whole different perspective of like the haunted house than like the adult ghost hunters.
Kids are the canaries in the well.
Yeah. Or the canary in the haunted house.
Yeah, or in the mine. I guess it's mines and wells.
Or no, the kids are also the Geiger counter.
Oh God.
Or the minesweeper for the haunted house. Yeah, that's the stuff I pulled from this movie. And I apologize if I've creeped out anybody in that.
Look, man, I destroyed everything. I think everything after me telling you about the older sister's break from reality, I think like everything else is better than that. So
yeah,
I mean,
you definitely just like you like big brain idea. Just like what if she did? What if the movie ends right there? It's like what?
Poof. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that is borrowable. Like we mentioned beforehand, there's scenes or elements of it, like the soot gremlins, the mothers in the hospital.
Yeah.
There's like tons of little odds and ends.
Yeah, it's very much a like it's a movie that has like kind of two sides to like for kids. It's a fun family film. Like it's very endearing. It's very whimsical, very fantastical. I think both children, like the children that we've introduced it to, have both loved it immensely.
Mm-hmm.
And even as an adult, like I appreciate the movie, like not just like for like the storytelling and like the whimsicalness and stuff. I can appreciate it for its storytelling and such, but I also like appreciate it as a mastercraft of animation. Like I'm watching this movie and like I'm appreciating like all of the work that went into like the scenes and stuff like that, and like I love how cozy it feels. Like it feels like the environments of this movie are very rustic and cozy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then I just like I'll get to that point where it's like, well, if you just tweak the music a little bit, and I think like people like of my mindset or like of our mindset will see that and appreciate that as well.
And that's what kind of is fun about it. You watch something and you can kind of switch between these two different things. Like you can enjoy it at surface level, or you can start, tweaking it, because this was hard to watch this cute little show. And then like, all right, Review Cultist wants me to go ahead and make a horror movie out of like the Muppet Babies. Like, what the fuck's going on here?
See, I think that's definitely a difference between like our perspectives, because like again, I grew up with a family that's very much like we love horror, we love spooky things, like most of us anyway. So, I was doomed from the start.
I like the assignment. It was fun, and this gives me an opportunity to be over analytical about stuff, which drives my friends crazy as I try to talk about something. They're like, "Why can't you just watch something?
Why can't you just like something for it?" I appreciate the like again, like you did point out, I was like, man, this dad's the worst dad ever. Or at least is like in terms of like maybe not like someone like he loves his kids, he's not like abusive or anything like that, but he's just negligent. And it's like, yeah, and like some of that could be because it was a simpler time, or it was an earlier time, but at the same time, like that guy should be watching his kids. Especially since he has to like babysit them or babysit one of them. Like yeah, I think we got a fair amount of material here. Like we covered the movie. I don't think we may have like left out a few things about the movie, but honestly, like people should watch the movie.
Yeah, it's from somebody who watched it, God, 33 years after it came out. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's enjoyable if you have kids. Watch it with them. I was even printed. I don't know if I could even. You're allowed to use this for cover art, but I even printed off pictures of Totoro for my daughters. They wanted to color them yesterday, and
Yeah.
like we had a lot of
Oh,
fun.
sorry, that's the thing we didn't cover actually. And we should have like when the bus part happened. Have you seen the image online that like completely twists that like that the movie poster of like Sasuke sitting at standing by the bus sign, and then like Totoro's next to her like at the bus stop,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like a horrifying like horror version of it. Like she's got a shotgun in hand, and he's just like this gaping like rotted maw.
Oh God, yeah,
I'm
that's a little different.
let me just see if I can pull that up for you to ruin to ruin you ruined the ending. You ruined the end of it. I'm gonna ruin the poster for you. Give me a second here. Oh, there it is. Somebody even printed like, oh my God! I'm gonna just pop this into our nightmare fuel for chat.
Oh, you're fine.
You're welcome, by the way.
All right, is this in the general or in the
It's
anime?
in the nightmare fuel bot.
Ah, very appropriately named.
Yes.
See this thing?
Like this also like it looks like a cover for like a Little Fears scenario based off of My Neighbor Totoro.
Thank you. That's messed up.
Yeah.
And a little thing. I gotta open this up to really appreciate this. What else? I'm just looking at what's in its maw.
It's I think it's people and stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like a little bit like the Thing kind of growing in his maw.
Yeah, it's. God, there
Yeah.
was like that old Korean game for like PlayStation
Oh,
2, a siren.
yeah,
This is
it's
what.
like Siren. I was thinking of like that creepy like that web comic that has like some of the panels are GIFs that like once you
Mhm.
scroll over it the GIF animates and it's like a creepy like it's I think it's probably like I think it's it's a Korean web comic but I could be wrong. I've mentioned it before on our show, but like yeah, you're scrolling down. It's like this girl going like walking at night like down a street, and then like she sees somebody in front of her that's acting kind of weird, and then it gets closer and closer to her with each panel, and then the last panel is a GIF that's animated, and it the head moves around to like look at you, and it's like it like completely like turns around like the Exorcist.
That's fucked
It's
up.
yeah, it's creepy. Yeah, I love Asian horror. It's just so interesting and messed up.
Yeah, it's got a unique feel to it. That's for sure.
Yep. So
But
yeah,
I think
I'll post in the description of this episode. I'll leave a link to the creepy My Neighbor Totoro poster.
yeah, enjoy.
Yeah, just like you son of a bitch.
Hey, you'll have 7 days to show it to a friend or a neighbor, and then you'll be free.
Yeah. Otherwise that Totoro will come to your house. All right. So if there's nothing else to be said, yeah, do you have anything else to add before we kind of
No,
close up?
I think I ran out of gas.
Yeah. I killed you with the with that image.
I keep looking in the mouth like, where's the little sister? No, she's not in there.
So here's another thing I noticed: the cover for the movie poster itself, like the actual movie poster, not the horrific one I just posted. It doesn't have Mai on her back, but in the movie, that scene, like where that poster image comes from, she has her on her back. But yeah, like they completely remove it for the movie poster and the cover poster.
Did Mai ever interact with anyone? Well, yeah, I guess she did interact.
Don't do this.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, there was a
Mom
part
and
where
Dad
her
don't
dad
die.
was tucking her into bed that night and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I was gonna say,
And she
like,
went to school.
did Maya lose her shoe when she disappeared into the hedges the first time?
God.
Ooh,
She lost her hat.
she never came
Though-
out.
God, that would have been really fuck. That
You're
would have been
welcome.
really good if it wasn't the hat that she lost, but it was the sandal when she went into the bush.
She
That would
never
have been
came back.
Such
She
a
never came
good
back.
tie
Pray
around. That would have definitely had like conspiracy theorists like booming for decades after this movie was released. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that kind of like film theorist would be like out there like talking about that a lot more.
I'm gonna start getting encoded messages. I like the way you're thinking. Would you like to join us? No.
Would you like to join our anime club?
Oh,
God. The Al Dente anime, the Al Dente Rigamortis anime club.
listen, guys, we better end this episode before I depress myself too much now.
Okay.
So I've already went down a lot of holes. I'm gonna decompress.
Yeah, we're gonna watch. Yeah, we're gonna decompress at some point between this week and next week. We're gonna watch Wicked City.
Which I will not watch with my children. I want to go
No,
ahead and preface
do
that.
not.
I'll probably watch it on my cell phone while laying in bed at night. My wife will roll over and look at me, and it's like, you disgust me.
But that is for another time. So, yeah, if you like what you heard, if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below, or this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. Adam, where can the nice listeners find you?
Well, Lord, I don't know if I want them to find me now after all the stuff I've said. But, if you would like to find me, I'm with the podcast Roleplaying Exchange. We're pretty much an actual play podcast. We post 2 APs a month, and then we typically have a talkie. I haven't been very religious about the talkies lately because life. But yeah, we usually do 3 uploads a month. You can find us at roleplayingexchange.com. We are on Twitter at RPEXCHANGE. I just spelled out Roleplaying Exchange, basically. But you know what? We'll go with that. And finally, I always have to double check it. I'm on Facebook.com/ hold on, the Roleplaying Exchange. Because there was a Roleplaying Exchange, but it was a different kind of role-playing
It was
with a safe word. And
it was a kinkier
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just make sure you put the Roleplaying Exchange, and you can find us on Facebook. But to be frank with you folks, follow me on Twitter. Facebook's all great and stuff like that, but I don't have a lot of interactions. There's not a huge fan base on it. So if I'm paying attention to anything, it's probably Twitter. But yeah, and Review Cultist, Crazon, Chris, I would like to thank you for inviting me onto your show once again. This is always a pleasure, and I look forward to recording our next session in a closed room where I'm sitting there talking about stuff that my kids didn't walk in there and just look at me in confusion and disgust. And yeah, so
Yep.
parental warning for the next ep. Just saying.
We're gonna do much like people use wasabi and ginger as a palate cleanser when they're having sushi. We're gonna have a media palate cleanser or a genre palate cleanser for the next one. So be warned. This was the mainline feature. Next week is the after dark feature.
Yeah.
Is the one where like the kids have gone to sleep after the and like it's the late show.
Are you gonna pick out a really awesome like kind of spooky one of those? Just saying.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I might just
yeah.
if I could, I'd use that Perturbator dark synth song that uses a line from the next movie from Wicked City, but I don't know what the copyright's at. Anyway, if you want to talk to me, I'm on Twitter at Review Cultist. You can also send Al Dente Rigamortis emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs. If you have an anime that you'd like to suggest to us to take a look at and talk about for fodder for creepypastas or game scenario stuff, let us know. I'll have Adam or one of our other hosts on to the show to get all weeaboo about, all creepy and horror riddled. If you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigamortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate it. And to our listeners, thank you for listening. And because if you didn't, it would be like just screaming into the void with this nonsense. But we very much appreciate it.
Actually, our podcast stopped a long time ago. You've been screaming into the void the whole time.
Oh no!
You broke.
But that wasn't Craig. That wasn't Alistair's. Or that wasn't Craig's sandal.
You broke it. You broke a QB6, man. I hate to tell you.
I have been your host, Review Cultist.
And I'm Adam.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis, presents Anime Rigamortis. Sleep well.
Bye.